Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the Routledge History of Literature in English, Part 53. So let's dive in the world of literature. Today we will be covering the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and after. At about the same time that Tennyson was returning Arthurian myth for his subject matter, a new movement in art and literature was setting about a revolution against the ugliness of contemporary life. A medieval simplicity, a closeness to nature in representational clarity, and a deep moral seriousness of intent distinguish the brotherhood, of whom the main figures were the painters John Millais and William Holman Hunt, and the brothers Dante Gabriel and William Michael Rossetti. Dante Gabriel was a painter first but became well known as a poet. William Michael edited the group's periodical, The Germ, which published 4 issues in 1850, originally with the significant subtitle Thoughts Towards Nature in Poetry, Literature, and Art. Dante Gabriel Rossetti's The Blessed Damozel in 1850, which uses lilies and a white rose for essentially symbolic purposes. This symbolism and a concern with generalities of life, love, and death permeates Rossetti's verse for some 30 years, but his writing also carries an erotic charge which is new in Victorian verse and led to accusations of obscenity when it was identified as the fleshly school of poetry. The poetry of Algernon Swinburne brings together many of the ideas of the Pre-Raphaelites with what Tennyson called a wonderful rhythmic invention. A prolific poet using a wide range of forms from drama to ballad, Swinburne had a considerable influence on the generation of the 1890s, by which time his own inspiration was failing. But from the drama Atlanta in Caledon in 1865 and Poems and Ballads in 1866 to his second series of Poems and Ballads in 1878, Swinburne was the new original spirit in English poetry, a spirit of luscious sensuality which was both a moral and spiritual challenge to the ethos of the day. He also wrote the poem Ave Attique Valley, an elegy to the 19th century French poet Charles Baudelaire. Like Tennyson, Ernest Dowson had a gift for the melancholy line, as in, I have been faithful to thee, Sinara in my fashion, but his was the aesthetic sensibility of the 1890s rather than the stoical self doubt of the mid Victorians. His poems emphasize the transience of a period in which the Yellow Book flourished. This was a short lived publication from 1894 to 1897, famous for its illustrations by Aubrey Beardsley, which came almost to symbolize the aesthetic movement. Dawson died in 1900, the same year as Oscar Wilde, the man who, more than any other, embodied the aesthetic motto art for art's sake. In the poem he wrote on his release from prison, The Ballad of Reading Gaol in 1898. Victorian despair in verse reaches its climax in the poetry of Gerard Manley Hopkins, which was largely written in the 1870s and 1880s but not published until 1918. He wrote poems such as Pied Beauty, and a line is given in the book from the poem. The line is, Glory to be God for dappled things. His major single poem is The Wreck of the Deutschland in 1876, inspired by the deaths amongst many of 5 nuns. Shakespeare's words, nothing will come of nothing, find an echo in Hopkins' no worst there is none. But Hopkins rejects rather than indulges in the negative emotion of despair. There are few lines from the poem Karen Comfort, and the lines are not, I will not, Karen Comfort, despair, not feast on thee, not untwist, slack they may be, these last strands of man, in me or most weary, cry I can no more. He also wrote the poem Thou art indeed just, Lord. In a sequence of sonnets written between 1885 and 1886 and referred to as the terrible or dark sonnets. Hopkins writes from the deepest agonies of despair at a world which is, for him, a spiritual wilderness. His sprung rhythm means that he exploits every aspect of language: sound, syntax, choices of words, often dialect words, to render the precise nature of what he describes. For example, in the poem The Windhover, the language captures both the excited feelings of the poet and the movement of the bird in the air. And few lines are given from the poem The Windhover, and the lines are: I caught this morning, morning's minion, kingdom of daylight's dauphin, dappled down drawn falcon in his riding. Hopkins breaks with conventional poetic rhythm to produce this unique inscaped description. If you have any doubts or query, you can ask me in the comment section below, or you can even message me in the social media IDs that are given below in the description box. And do share the video to all those who wants to be the part of this literary journey. And one thing more, lines are given from the poems in the book. Do read the lines. So that's all for today's video. Thank you and signing out.